What's up, YouTube? Today I'm going to show you examples of possible dinosaurs in the Bible. First, I would like to look up the definition of dinosaur according to WordNick. It's 1. Any various extinct terrestrial reptiles of the order of Saurischia and Ornithia that existed during the Mesozoic era. 2. Including both carnivores and herbivores and often reaching a gigantic size. 3. Any various other large extinct reptiles such as an ichthyosaur. And according to, Strong's Concordance, this word never shows up in the Bible. But this whole video is about dinosaurs in the Bible. So what's the deal? Am I wrong? Well, let's look deeper. I've already done the research, so I'm cutting to the chase here. The word dinosaur was created in 1842 by Sir Richard Owens. So was that because large reptiles weren't discovered before? No. The Bible is ahead of its time. Discovered dinosaurs were originally called dragons, but the definition of dragon in WordNick doesn't seem like a traditional dinosaur. I would like to explore what the Bible's talking about when it brings up dragons, because reading about them in the KJV uneducated seems like a strange translation. But with the context, it makes more sense. And in these older Bible dictionaries, it'll clarify this point more. Here's Smith's definition. Dragon. The translators of the authorized version apparently following the Vulgate have rendered by the same word, dragon, the two Hebrew words, tan and tannin, which appear to be quite distinct in meaning. The former tan is used always in the plural, and it shows examples. It is always applied to some creatures inhabiting the desert, and we should conclude from this that it refers rather to some wild beast than to a serpent. The Syriac renders it by a word which, according to Pokaki, means a jackal. 2. The word tannin seems to refer to any great monster, whether of the land or the sea, being indeed more usually applied to some kind of serpent or reptile, but not exclusively restricted to that sense. Showing examples, in the New Testament it is found only in the Apocalypse. Showing more examples, as applied metaphorically to the old serpent called the devil and Satan. So this is referring to two Hebrew words. Let's check out Strong's definition on those. H8565 in the Hebrew is tan, from an unused root probably meaning to elongate, a monster as preternaturally formed, that is a sea serpent or other huge marine animal, also a jackal or other hideous land animal, dragon, whale. And then the word tannin is H8577, intensive from the same as H8565, which is tan, a marine or land monster that is sea serpent or jackal, dragon, sea monster, serpent, whale. So these are saying a dragon is a sea serpent, jackal, and or monster. Let's look at 1828's Webster's definition for these words. A huge animal like a serpent inhabiting the sea. A serpent-like animal, huh? You know how something like the Hydra has a snake appearance on top, but once you see its bottom portion, it has a whole body? Maybe that's what's going on. But before we continue with that, let's now look at Webster's definition for jackal. Oh, it's not here. That means we gotta go to outer sources. Here's the etymology of jackal. The word translates to the howler, and apparently it was believed they let out prey for lions. Lamentations 4:3 coincides with this. In the KJV, even the jackals draw out the breast. They suckle their young ones. The daughter of my people is cruel, like the ostriches in the wilderness. But looking back at the word tan, we can see it adds something after jackal, or other hideous land animal. Keep this in mind. Anyways, let's go on to the word monster. Here's Webster's definition. 1. An animal produced with a shape or with parts that are not natural, as when the body is ill-formed or distorted, or the limbs too few or too many, or when any part is extravagantly out of proportion, either through defect or excess. 2. Any unnatural production, something greatly deformed. Monsters are common in the vegetable kingdom. 3. A person so wicked as to appear horrible, one unnaturally wicked or mischievous, so a parasite is called a monster. They must have been at least fearful of these beasts. If we take those definitions as they are, then at face value, this doesn't seem like a dinosaur's description at all. But what's interesting to me is how Strong's Concordance came up with the English words for tan and tannin. For tan they wrote, dragon, whale. And for tannin, they translated that into dragon, sea monster, serpent, whale. Wow, a sea monster right next to the word serpent? How can something we understand as biologically sound sit right next to the word monster, which we just read as something of unnatural production? Well, if we go back to Webster's, we see the definition for sea monster. This definition states it's a huge marine animal. So how come monster here means huge, yet the pure form of monster means an animal produced with a shape or parts that are not natural? It's as if they're using a different version of the word monster, like the third definition. 3. A person so wicked as to appear horrible, one unnaturally wicked or mischievous, so a parasite is called a monster. But let's look in another dictionary. 1895 Cyclopedia has the definition of monster being located in sea monster. Is the rendering in Lamentations 4:3 of the Hebrew tan, where the margin has sea calves. The root of the word is tandon, to stretch out. Hence, it seems to imply a slim creature that extends itself, and some think it to mean a kind of serpent. Others would render it jackal. It is variously rendered in the AV, whale, serpent, etc., nor is it probable that it was very definite had its application. See dragon. So this is huge. It's saying sea monster is also found in Lamentations 4:3, but we just read that it said jackals in the modern King James. But in the King James Version it says, even the sea monsters draw out the breast. They give suck to their young ones. The daughter of my people is become cruel, like the ostriches in the wilderness. And reading a verse like Micah 1:8 in the KJV does not help with this case. So look at this. Therefore I will wail and hollow, I will go stripped naked, and I will make a wailing like the dragons, and mourning as the owls. Wailing like the dragons? What do you think he's referring to? Dragons aren't real, but apparently jackals are. Apparently sea monsters are found in the KJV too. It's like the definition of dragon changed. So do snakes scream? I'm bewildered. Either King James got it wrong or sea monsters howl. And apparently the definition for monster is also found in here too. And then it wants us to go to the definition of dragon. What is going on here? You know what? Let's do that. Here's the Encyclopedia definition of dragon. From the Greek, as in the Apocrypha and Revelation frequently, an imaginary serpent of antiquity, especially in mythology, supposed to be supplied with feet and often with wings. Stands in our version usually as a translation of two Hebrew words of different signification, tan, but common derivation, tan and tannin, according to the Gesenius, from to extend with reference to the great length of one or both of them. The similarity of the forms of the word may easily account for this confusion, especially as the masculine plural, the former tannin, actually assumes in Lamentations 4:3 the form tannin, and on the other hand, tannim is evidently written for the singular tannin in these examples, but the words appear to be quite distinct in meaning, and the distinction is generally, though not universally, preserved by the Septuagint. Bocart, however, proposes to read uniformly tannin as the plural of tan, and thus merge, to extend with reference to the great length of one or both of them. So this isn't talking about no small creature here. But with all this running around, what is the clearest biblical definition of dragon? Let's go to etymology.com again and see this. Mid-13th century, dragon, a fabulous animal common to the conceptions of many races of people. From the Old French dragon and directly from Latin draconem, nominative Draco, huge serpent, dragon, from Greek drakon, genitive, drakontos, serpent, giant sea fish. Apparently from Drake, strong aorist, stem of dirkethsai, to see clearly, from pi, dirk, to see, also of Sanskrit, darsata, visible, Old Irish, adkondark, I have seen, Gothic, gatarhan, characterize, Old English tor, Old High German zora, light, clear, Albanian drite, light. Perhaps the literal sense is the one with a deadly glance, the one with paralyzing sight. The young are dragonets, fem form dragones, is attested from 1630s obsolete drake, dragon, is an older borrowing of the same word, and a later form in another sense is dragoon, used in the Bible generally for creatures of great size and fierceness. It is translated Hebrew tannin, a great sea monster, also tan, a desert mammal now believed to be the jackal. So now only modern interpretations associate tan with jackals. That clears it up. And it clearly says in the Bible, dragon usually is used for creatures of great size and fierceness. It's clear the word dragon has evolved from the roots of non-mythical starts. So the word dragon was used to describe what we call today dinosaurs. This can be asserted because of the older definitions such as huge serpent and giant sea fish, which by the way are very different ideas, and to see clearly which would apply. Whatever these old dragons were, you couldn't miss them. Also, to strengthen this, I found an article here which has a very bold premise. I do not know what the ideology of creationism holds, and I do not know if my views align with it. I'm only citing this article because they go over an old definition found in a dictionary using the word dragon, with a section I would like to quote verbatim. Notes: a dictionary from 1946 called Dragons, rare rather than mythological. Answer, So 60 odd years ago, there were still a few dragons hanging around. Is this for real? Do the people teaching this have brain damage or something? Anyway, this seems to be the entry in question. Now rare quite obviously refers to usage of the word dragon to mean a huge serpent. The phrase's formatting, capitalized and italicized to distinguish it from the definition itself, and the second listed definition, a fabulous, i.e. mythical, animal. Both confirm this. I can see where they come from with their rebuttal. I don't believe that picture is depicting any dragon I'm going to be talking about in this video, although that is an interesting drawing. I would like to add that their assertion placing mythical in there may not be so credible, and if we use the second definition, then this video will be over. If it didn't say or at the end. Excluding the art, winged serpents could just be describing pterodactyls or any flyers of the sort. Lizards also fit the description of dinosaurs, but I'm pretty sure it is still referring to the wing part, which falls back into the flyer category. And definition 5 speaks of the Bible translations we're going over, which we just read may tan and tannin mean jackal or serpent most of the time when referenced later in history. Not saying it can't be either of them, just pointing out the other translators limited the range of the true definitions later on. Also notice the writer did not refute the dictionary in question, which doesn't necessarily prove its authenticity, but at least is compelling they left it out in that section if it is so. So in this video, I'm going to equivalate dragon with dinosaur using the resources mentioned in the intro. Although the modern definition separated the two, the Bible has not. These ancient dragon depictions always include limbs, wings, legs, whatever else. This is where you have to correlate that dragons are like serpents in the sense of how some of their characteristics align. You can see that with the Hydra example. You can see its evolution with Smith's reading, how the Hebrew didn't just call it a snake, they said whale and sea monster. Guys, whales are not serpents, get your facts straight. So with that in mind, I would like to challenge you to understand when I say dragon or dinosaur, I'm referring to the Hebrew definition, Strong's Tannin, land or water monster with characteristics like a serpent and or a jackal. They even wrote also a jackal or other hideous land animal, meaning it's loose. It's not just those dead dogs in Africa. And I'm not going to say reptile because back then, referring to Thomas Eliot's 1538 dictionary, but many others say similar things, that definition belonged to literal snakes and crawlers. So now that you're equipped with that deep understanding of diction I gave you, it's time to get to the real part of the video, Dinosaurs in the Bible, which is the title of today's video. On screen, I will put up the MKJV and the KJV translations next to each other, but I will mainly be reading in the MKJV just in case there's some people who are watching who don't understand the KJV. Let's start in Genesis. And God created great sea animals and every living soul that creeps, with which the waters swarmed after their kind, and every winged fowl after its kind. And God saw that it was good. Great in this sense means large. Notice how the Bible never really acknowledges the extinction of species. And if you bring up the flood saying God killed all the dinosaurs in the flood, let me show you something. Genesis 7:2-3. You shall take with you every clean animal by sevens, the male and female, and take 2 of the animals that are not clean, the male and female. Also take of the fowls of the air by sevens, the male and the female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth. And for those who say, oh, every single clean animal got saved, all the dinosaurs died, Genesis 7, 8 through 9. Of the clean animals, and of the animals that were not clean, and of the fowls, and of everything that creeps on earth, 2 by 2, they went in to Noah into the ark, male and female, as God had commanded Noah. And for the final nail, Genesis 7, 14 through 15. They went in, and every animal after its kind, and all the cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth after its kind, and every fowl after its kind, every bird of every sort. And they went in to Noah into the ark, 2 and 2 of all flesh, in which is the breath of life. And we still have actual people out here saying dinosaurs aren't real. They couldn't fit on the ark. Not even mentioning every bird of every sort. Like, you gotta be kidding me. Hey y'all, God can do whatever he wants. God could have put baby dinosaurs on the ark. He could have made the ark have a extended roof on it like the giant hut in Clash of Clans. It's not that hard. And if you want to ignore all our fossil evidence, then I can't help you there. You see, but don't believe. So somehow, dinosaurs made it onto this new world. Great. While I do have evidence showing humans and dinosaurs coexisting with each other, I'd rather just stick to the scripts on this project. I'm simply gonna go in order from first book to last book. I'm going to avoid eisegeting text that is talking about animals we know almost certainly are living, but there are numerable occasions of tan or tannine being used to represent them. In the case of laminations, I genuinely can't say if it's talking about a jackal or a raptor. We don't have enough information to know the behavior of these dinosaurs to conclude it's 100% a jackal or vice versa. I'm going to leave that up to you for you to discern for yourself. Also, Minecraft don't really have dinosaurs like that, so I just put a sniffer and a zombie horse in to represent some of the large reptiles. Hope y'all understand. So let's start this new world section with Job 3:8, one of the oldest books in the Bible. Now, this is mentioning the Leviathan, which in Webster's dictionary says it's 1, an aquatic animal described in Job 41 and mentioned in other passages of scripture. In Isaiah, it is called the crooked serpent. It is not agreed what animal is intended by the writers, whether the crocodile, the whale, or a species of serpent. 2, the whale or a great whale. So pretty accurate description. I would probably say the same too. We're going to talk about the Leviathan later. Job 7:12. Am I like the sea or a whale that you set a watch over me? The same word for whale can also mean sea monster, according to the word it was translated from, tanine, which aligns with our definition of dragon. So y'all know of all those stories of krakens and the depictions of them and all that stuff. I mean, according to the Bible, these could be giant snakes for all we know. I'm just basing this off of the definition. That's all I'm doing in this video, reading definitions and applying them. Job 30:29. I am a brother to jackals and a companion to daughters of the ostrich. Now this word jackal, same with whale, is the word for dragon, as we studied before going through these verses. I would like to add this. The location Job most likely lived in was near the Dinosaurs, which is mainly an Egyptian dinosaur. I have no idea if they scream and cry, but judging by the context clues, realistically, I could see it be a jackal because, as Cambridge points out, jackals and ostriches make it known when they're sad. Again, I'll leave it up to you to decide. But with that ambiguity out of the way, here's the real meat, Job 40. I already covered what kind of dinosaur this could be. In the video I did, I said it was probably in Argentina. But I would like to add that these things were all over the world, so it's possible Job may have encountered one in his life. I can't say, but this is most likely a sauropod. Tail like cedar, face unreachable. You can watch my video for a greater breakdown on this and why it just can't be an elephant or a hippo. Now we flip and get to Job 41, talking about the Leviathan. Leviathan means large serpent. If that doesn't scream dragon to you, then keep reading to learn about its fire-breathing capabilities. This exhibit is so obvious, I have no need to explain further. An underwater, fire-breathing dragon that may be alive still, or dead. Cool stuff. Next is in Psalm 44:19. I'm going to read this first in the modern King James, and then in the King James, and let you decide which one makes more sense, and then get to my own commentary. because it's kind of funny just reading these side by side with the definition in mind. Though you have crushed us in the place of jackals and covered us with the shadow of death. That's in the modern King James. Let's move on to the King James. Though thou hast sore broken us in the place of dragons and covered us with the shadow of death. Do jackals really kill people like that? And what kind of shadow do you think he's talking about? A jackal's shadow? Me personally, I'd have piss running down my leg if I was under a mean dragon shadow, let alone being crushed by one. I can't ever see myself get too scared being pulverized by a jackal. They don't cast shadows like that anyway. Not gonna lie, if dinosaurs weren't tanning, then that bar would have gone harder if it was talking about being under the shadow of a lion or something. Just speaking from a creative, artistic perspective to represent death or fear or the emotion he's trying to give off in that song. Continuing in that book by Sir David, we got Psalm 74, 13 through 14. You divide the sea by your strength. You break the heads of the sea monsters in the water. You cracked open the heads of Leviathan, and you gave him to be food to the people living in the wilderness. This says both words. Real cool. This is some surface level stuff, y'all. I'm surprised people don't even realize how unfiltered this Bible is. People really believe sea monsters aren't real. You show them this and they say it's a whale. It's like you don't comprehend how much creative control God has. But anyways, next verse, Isaiah 34, 13. And thorns shall come up in her palaces, nettles and thistles in its fortresses, and it shall be a home of jackals and a court for ostriches. Again, I'll let you decide. Just because I bring something up does not mean it's conclusive. I just want you to think for yourself what could be going on here. And continuing in Isaiah, we got chapter 43, verse 20. The beasts of my field shall honor me, the jackals and the ostriches, because I give water in the wilderness, rivers in the desert, to give drink to my people, my chosen. I wonder what the connection between jackals and ostriches is. We got next up Jeremiah 9:11. And I will make Jerusalem ruins, a den of jackals, and I will make the cities of Judah a desolation without a living soul. Keep in mind, all these jackal instances use the same H8577 word, which also means dragon. I can't say what the dragon's behavior is, but you remember all these fairy tale stories about a knight saving the princess from a castle, but it never made sense why a dragon would be guarding it. If it was a mythical dragon, as we read at the beginning of this video, it would be just flying away. But like in Shrek, they took a different approach where they chained her up so she couldn't really leave if she wanted to. But then she found a way. I mean, even then, even in Shrek, they couldn't fully defend that case. This will be in the KJVA this time. I'm just gonna read this whole story and you tell me what this is. I'm just let the scripture speak. See, this is just egregious. You're telling me we're just gonna start at Daniel 14 verse 23. And in that same place there was a great dragon, which they of Babylon worshipped. And the king said unto Daniel, Wilt thou also say that this is of brass? Lo, he liveth, he eateth, and drinketh. Thou canst not say that he is no living God. Therefore worship him. Then said Daniel unto the king, I will worship the Lord my God, for he is the living God. But give me leave, O king, and I shall slay this dragon without sword or staff. The king said, I give thee leave. Then Daniel took pitch and fat and lumps thereof. This he put in the dragon's mouth, and so the dragon burst in sunder. And Daniel said, Lo, these are the gods ye worship. When they of Babylon heard that, they took great indignation and conspired against the king, saying, The king is become a Jew and hath destroyed Bel. He hath slain the dragon and put the priest to death. So they came to the king and said, Deliver us, Daniel, or else we will destroy thee and thine house. Now, when the king saw that they pressed him sore, being constrained, he delivered Daniel unto them, who cast him into the lion's den, where he was 6 days. So what's cool about this is that Daniel is a little bit of a scientist himself, and he combined pitch, fat, and hair that will melt, heat up, and make an explosive mixture. And let's just say he put the ball in the net. Also, I just want to point out in verse 3, they gave Bel a lot of wine, like a a lot every day. And I would not be surprised if they, maybe someone was a little tipsy and got confused, and then maybe one of the major contributing factors behind why it didn't go postal on these people was that they were also feeding the dragon wine. Just a hilarious thought, though. I don't think that's the case. But something deeper is definitely there between the lines. Oh yeah, and that's a dragon. Anyways, our next piece of evidence comes from Malachi 1:3. And I hated Esau and made his mountains a desolation, and his inheritance to be for the jackals of the wilderness. But the KJV says, and I hated Esau and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. So that concludes the Old Testament. I don't know about your Bible, but my Bible says dragons are real. May not be the dragons you're thinking of, but words are words here. And the word is perfect. I've shown you the history of the word dinosaur, dragon, and I've showed you the kinds of dinosaurs in the Old Testament. But if you want the most damning evidence of dragons, and I'm actually going to have to take a step further, the most damning evidence of a hydra in the Bible, let's turn to Revelation 12:3-4 in the KJV. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads of 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, to devour her child as soon as it was born. So there it is, a hydra in the Bible. I had to compress my Minecraft little building for the area I set up, but the Revelation concept still stands. The only living dragon we can affirm is the one who's after our salvation. But with Yeshua HaMashiach, or Jesus Christ, or whatever you want to name him, our Lord, he gives us a sword to slay the beast. Thanks for watching.